Hi, today we're going to talk about the aspects of a first-time home buyer. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Matt Gatewood, Principal Broker of Gatewood Properties in Kentucky. And today we're going to talk through first-time home buyer process a little bit. And, I tell clients all the time that residential real estate is both a financial and an emotional decision. The financial part is many times it's one of the biggest financial decisions or the biggest financial decision people will make in their lives. And there's an emotional part to it because it's where we live our lives. So today I'm going to kind of break down some things, some tips and tricks of the trade, if you will, and hopefully answer some of the questions you have. So kind of just jumping in there, we're talking about the financial piece, we'll talk about budget and kind of start with that part because that can actually just help not get emotionally attached to something that you can't afford or feel overextend on. So the first things I like to do is talk to first-time home buyers particularly because let's be real, you guys have more questions, anxiety about the process, and you've been trying to save up and figure out what to do, and you want to get in the game, you want to own real estate. And so there can be just kind of some additional things to work through with that. So that's all I like to do is just start with the budget part. And one of the ways I really talk through is with clients is let's get together with the loan officer. So I've got different ones I can recommend, or if you have somebody that you know that you can sit down with and say, hey, I need to get pre-approved on this. I need to get qualified to know what can I afford. So they're pulling credit score, they're pulling other data of like how much you make, savings, things of that sort, and they'll say, here's what you can afford. Now, what's really important in this part of it, I tell clients to very much focus on is what works for you, right? Like they may pre-approve you for a higher amount than are you comfortable with that, right? Like, are they going to pre-approve me for $300,000? But really, I'm more comfortable at $225,000 based on my budget. And a loan officer will help really break that down for you and look at like, what's your principal payment going to be? What's your interest going to be? What's your insurance going to be? Taxes, all this sort of thing. And you look at, here's my budget and here's what I'm doing with that. And so they're very helpful in digging into that financial piece for you. So that's what I always recommend to start because you kind of want to know where am I comfortable with in my budget. In addition, there's some cost associated with closing on a house. And it's many times, we call them prepaids and closing costs. So what I recommend is talk to the loan officer. Hey, what do the closing costs look like for a $200,000 purchase, a $300,000 purchase? What is it? What's fixed? What's variable? Help me figure out, what's this gonna cost beyond my monthly payment? What's it gonna cost to close the loan? What are the fees from the attorney's office that's going to close it? What are the fees from the loan? Are there any additional things I need to be aware of from a financial closing cost perspective? Because what I have happen a lot of times first-time home buyers is they don't realize it's beyond the down payment. There's costs associated that buyers have to pay. Now, sometimes depending on the style market, we can negotiate some of those prepaids and closing costs, as we call them, into the loan where the seller pays for some of that. But that's varied on the individual situation. But it's always best for me as an agent as well to know, well, what's your closing cost going to look like for X dollar loan or price point you're looking at. So that's just a really good place to start to figure that out. In addition, there are some other costs associated with it. The loan officer talked through, but kind of mention this now. You'll have an appraisal cost, and that's, if you get a loan, there has to be an appraisal to make sure that the house appraises for the sales contract price we have. And as well, there's an inspection. And inspection costs can vary depending on how much you want to get done on an inspection. And I talked through that detail with clients on what that looks like at the beginning on that part. So it's kind of working in tandem. The loan officer's talking about here's your closing costs are going to be and everything. And then I talk about, hey, here are the other things you want to be looking at from a budget perspective, inspection, things of that sort. And one other piece related to the money thing that I like to talk about, particularly here within the state of Kentucky, is we have good faith deposits. Now, it's varied depending sometimes on the price point of the property, whatever it might be. But either way, I talk with clients in detail about here's what to expect from good faith. And the reason I bring that up is because that money's actually pulled out of your account and deposited into the brokerage escrow account. So it's not just like write me a check or transfer money and then it just kind of, oh, it's just out there. It actually is physical money that's transferred over. So let's say it's $1,000 for good faith money for a particular situation as an example, and that money is transferred over, it's a check or transfer. We do that, it goes into a brokerage escrow account and sits there. Now that money is either applied to closing costs at the end or returned at the closing. But I always like to bring that up, kind of the sections of cost: prepays and closing cost, additional cost for appraisal inspection, and the good faith money. A couple other parts to it when talking to a loan officer is you want to talk to the loan officer about what you should and shouldn't do with your credit. So, meaning, is it okay to go out and buy this? And a lot of times they'll say, hey, don't take on new credit, whatever it might be, buying a car or furniture, whatever it might be. But I always recommend to talk to the loan officer very specifically. And a lot of times they'll even have handout sheets that say, hey, for this, do not do, here are the do's, here are the don'ts, right, for your credit score. Because you don't want to accidentally do something you just didn't know. I'm going to move in the house, let me buy furniture 2 days before closing, and they go to pull your credit at the end, and you're like, oh no, just try to avoid that as much as possible. So loan officers are usually pretty good about that. I recommend as a first-time homebuyer to be proactive and ask a little bit further about that. One other thing, if you do decide to shop rates, looking at saying, oh, interest rates this, interest rates that, what is it? Big thing I recommend to do is shop apples to apples. So some lenders may say, oh, well, I've got, this is your interest rate, but you've got to look to see they might be having you buy something called points, which is like lowering the loan amount down. So you really want to look to say, because that might be make your closing costs higher. So we're really looking at saying, hey, what is an apples to apples comparison? My closing cost, the rate, whatever it might be when you're shopping. So that's just something I recommend to do if you're doing that. Sometimes people ask me too, like, is it okay? How much can I shop? And I say, try to keep it to a minimum. I mean, they're seeing from your credit score that you're, they know what you're doing. You're shopping for a house, but I don't. You talk to loan officers kind of sometimes more detail with that, but I was like, I would recommend going and doing like 10 of them, right? Like type of thing. So just try to look at that when doing some of that shopping. So to where it's not going to ding your credit score if you do a ton of them. Now that could depend on circumstances and things of that sort, but usually a couple of them if you are shopping. So that's my side note on that. Speaking of shopping, let's talk about actually shopping for the houses themselves. So once you get pre-approved, you figure out, hey, my budget, they pre-approved me for $300,000, but I'm more comfortable in a, $225, $235 range. Well, then I set up an automated search in the MLS where you get updates from it, or you might be running a Zillow app or Realtor.com app or whatever that is. Well, but the MLS is where all of those third-party sites get their information from. So I recommend to go ahead and have that search set up. People ask me all the time, how many houses does it take? What is it? I have had clients look at one house and know they wanted it, and that was it. Typically, as a first-time home buyer, though, you're going to look at more, and I really recommend that you look at some, because we're going through this process, and at times it may seem a little discouraging because it's like, oh no, am I getting anywhere? It's a really fun part of my job to actually get to see that happen. And I help clients guide them through that. They're getting discouraged or whatever it might be, and I'm like, no. I was like, here's what's happening. You might be like, oh, I'm bummed I missed out on that one. We missed an offer on that, and they already accepted something. Or I really like this one, and whatever it might be. I'm there to help guide through that part of the process. And it's fun for me to see that, sort of. A lot of times when I say I narrow, it starts really broad and then kind of narrows down to more select things that you're looking for. The amount of houses a lot of times as well depends on how many houses are out there. What's our inventory look like? Is it a shortage market? Is it more of a seller's market? Is it a balanced market? Is it a buyer's market where there's more, kind of inventory than we would anticipate on the supply demand balance aspect of that. So, it depends. But I tell a lot of people, if it's not a real shortage market, if there's plenty of houses to look at, a lot of times people look at 10 houses and then make an offer. But that's varied. I mean, that can be an average. Like I said, I've seen people just look at a few and no. But for first-time home buyers, I really try to get you all to look at more than just one or two, right? Like once you get a feel for it. and know what else is out there. And that's what I'm helped to just guide through any of those real estate needs and questions. And along those lines, I have a buyer questionnaire that I have clients fill at the beginning that just helps get you thinking about the process or what you do need and want, because sometimes it's kind of hard to know when you're first starting out. And it's part of the process, kind of process elimination, learn it. As well as I have a residential buying guide that I give my clients, and you can actually see that on my website, gatewoodproperties.com. It's just a free download, no obligation. I don't collect your information, anything like that. You can just check it out, and if you're interested, give me a call, and I'd love to set up a meeting with you and talk further and help you through the process. So with the buying guide, it's talking a little bit more detail about some of the stuff like good faith, inspections, status types, that kind of stuff for that. So, it's buying a property can be stressful at times, but I try to make it as fun as possible and as pain-free as possible as well. Just trying to make that a smooth process for you and try to really enjoy that, because real estate is a big deal. It is, like I said, both a big financial decision as well as, it's where we spend a lot of money, but also we spend a lot of time, right? And not just sleeping. It's where we like to hang out. It's where and for many it can be kind of like an identity for things. So, I love being able to help people of all different real estate situations. But in terms of helping first-time home buyers as well, I love helping you get through that process. So, I hope you found some of this stuff helpful. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact me. Call, text, email, carrier pigeon. Whatever works for you as well. Feel free to subscribe to the channel, and I make other real estate videos or videos as well about Louisville, Kentucky. So appreciate you tuning in. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Don't hesitate to ask. If you want that buying guide or anything else, I can email it to you, or you can download it from the website. And thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.